Hello, welcome to the Week 14 Spreads of the Week, the YouTube show where we run you through all the NFL spreads and give our opinion on which way it's going to go. Joining me as usual is Michael Jinks from South London. How's it going over there, Mike?
Festive greetings to you, Thomas. Yeah, it's going quite well. Quite chilly over in the UK right now. Very dark as it always is this time of year. But yeah, no, gearing up for Christmas and full slate of NFL action, festive NFL action.
Yeah, it's also a little chilly over here in Cleveland, Ohio, and odd to believe it's only 4 weeks left of the season now. It's really has flown by at a rate of knots this year.
Yeah.
Um, we had a relatively quiet week last week. I picked at 50%. You were down at 41%, bringing your yearly tally to below 50% for the first time in a while, Mike, which is a shame. But yeah,
Nightmare.
as we had some tough ones as we mentioned last week. Some the Patriots won, for instance, where they lost 6-0. That was a Chargers covered by one there, well, half a point. A couple of other very close ones, and yeah,
Very,
just finite margins when you get this far down.
no, it is, and it's very LA Chargers to only win by 6 points when the other team didn't score a single point in the game. That is
Yeah,
very LA Chargers football.
that's sum up. Yeah, Staley might be keeping his job after that defensive performance.
Yeah.
That's usually the critique of him is that he doesn't have a defense, but wow,
He's
could be
got that.
saving him. Yeah,
Right. I'll pull up the Athletic just because we always do.
yeah,
And we'll have a little look at what happened last night because we actually had a rare primetime success, Thomas. So,
yeah.
as you can
This is
see here, the Patriots heading into Pittsburgh and winning on the road with over 300 yards of offense with Bailey Zappi at quarterback against this
yeah.
previously vaunted Steelers defense. So that's quite a good effort from them. And more importantly, a cover because they were five and a
Yeah.
half point dogs here on the road, and we both took them to cover here, which they clearly did.
Yeah, a rare cover for us. A good one on Thursday night football. I do feel some of these prime time games have started to get a lot closer now, and being a bit wary of the bigger spreads is serving us okay. As same as you were with Cincinnati at Jacksonville last week. They are close. They're usually one score games, and I think last week we were a bit dismayed at some of the lines that came out. Just more because we believed more in some of the teams, but we stuck with our guns this week because this line just looked absurd, and it might from the start -5.5 for the Steelers with a Trubisky starting at QB.
Yeah, I was saying to you before, it just seemed like an odd one to me. I think if beforehand you and I would have, if we'd had a conversation not knowing what the line is, I think we'd have said maybe a 1 or 2 point favorite the Steelers rather than 5.5.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, Trubisky, he looks even worse in Pittsburgh than he did in Chicago, which is remarkable, really. So, yeah, I thought it was a
yeah,
bit rich to make them a 5.5 point favorite, and so it proved.
yeah, yeah. Too much. Bailey Zappi by far the better quarterback on the evening, and probably going to have a better NFL career than Trubisky based on what we've seen,
Oh,
which
could
which
do.
is enjoyable for the young man, a low round pick there.
All right. Well, let's crack on then. So we've got first on the docket here, per the Athletic, is the Jags at the Browns. I think I made you pick first last week, so I'm happy to jump in here, Tom, if you don't mind. Or do you have a strong feeling about this one?
No, no, I will be in attendance at this one. That's my only affiliation to it. But yeah, you're welcome to pick it.
I had forgotten that. Yeah, so I'll enjoy. It should be a good one.
Yeah,
I'm going to enjoy watching this game. Um, Browns a 3 point favorite is I just think instinctively that's a little bit rich, but the Jags obviously really struggle with the Cincinnati Bengals, and obviously the Browns have a better defense than the Bengals. It's just whether the Browns can put up enough points with Joe Flacco to stay competitive.
mm.
Um, I feel like the Browns have got it in them to win this
Yeah,
game at home. It'll be chilly. The Jags are a bit of a fair weather team from the south.
mm.
Um, and I think Flacco, you know what? I know he finished the game poorly when he was just having to chuck and duck to try and get them back into it. But when he could stay on schedule and the game was close, he actually performed quite well. So, and that offense, as we said on the podcast last week, seems to suit him perfectly. Heavy play action, run the ball. So yeah, I'm going to go here with the Browns. I'm going to side with them to take a win here and get back on track. May even turn out with all the injuries, they might end up being the class of the AFC North here. Although I'm sure the Ravens will have plenty to say about
Yeah, yeah. I do like the call. I think from what I've seen, Lawrence is a game time decision with his ankle. That's probably the only thing affecting this line. Amazingly, he wasn't as injured as everyone thought he was when he was carted off on Monday night, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, it really. I don't know. I might reserve the right to call it on the day if Lawrence is playing or not. I feel like if Lawrence is playing, the line might change, but I'll take the Jags. I'm going to take the Browns for now and assume they'll rest Lawrence, as there's probably no need for them to play him if he's not 100%, as they've already pretty much got the South sewn up. So I do think I agree that it's a good matchup, bringing the Jags up here to the cold weather. The Jags running game has been non-existent all year, and the Browns are good in pass defense, so that doesn't match up very well at all for the Jags. So it's going to be a Browns cover unless Lawrence plays. Lawrence is a difference maker for me.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the Browns either way. I think I'm going to be brave and stick with them even if Lawrence plays. So you don't have to offer me the potential mulligan there if he does suit up.
Yeah, great. Glad to got the mulligan
in. Lions at Bears. Actually, not as poor of a game. Well, for me, not as poor of a game as the Bears' record would indicate. I think it might be feisty. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. The Lions are quite an up and down team. They should have really had that game in the bag last week against the Saints, and they made it nice and sweaty for themselves at the end there, letting them back in. I quite like the Bears to cover this just as the home team. Didn't the Bears beat the Lions? And was that one of their bizarre wins they had this year? Maybe in Detroit.
I can't remember now.
Anyway, I just think based on this, it's a nice field goal cover, and I do think it's going to be a field goal game here. The Lions just tend to have a big win, and then they'll come back and put in a very flat performance the week after. So I do fancy the Bears here to cover and maybe win the game.
Interesting, yeah. Obviously, you do have the benefits here of the Bears that the line is 3.5 basically. So the Lions have to win by more than a field goal. So you do have that wiggle room.
Yeah.
If you're going to back the Bears, so I think I'm going to back the Bears here as well. I think it could be a field goal game, like a walk-off field goal for the Lions in a bit of a slobber knocker. The Lions are. Despite being fairly stout on the defensive line, they're not. I don't think they're going to slow this running game down with Fields operating at 100% now, fully recovered from his various ailments. So I think it could be a close game with a narrow Lions win. So yeah, I'm gonna back the Bears to cover.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the weather probably will play a factor in some. Certainly, these first two games we've looked at. I think you got dome or fair weather teams, should we say, going to very chilly, frigid, windy conditions. So
yeah, dome team on outside. I believe the dome is also artificial turf as well. The Lions play on, and they'll be in quite the turf much heavier at Soldier Field, so it might slow down some of their dynamic offensive threats there for the Lions. So we'll see. See on that. So one that you actually have a vested interest in here, Tom. The Panthers, unsurprisingly, really coming in as quite a large underdog. You can't really sniff too much at this line. They've been pretty dreadful. Young putting up plenty of yardage, but just and not too many interceptions, really. I mean, that's not a bad interception line, but just the lack of scoring has been a bit of a nightmare. You to pick first, or is it me? I've already forgotten. I'm out of rhythm.
It's you.
Well, Is Carr healthy? Because didn't he got absolutely smashed last week? He got throttled last week.
Okay. Uh,
Because he was knocked out of the game last week with the team just said various injuries. He had like a concussion and
he's still a game time decision, I think.
oof,
Uh, there's something about concussion maybe holding him back.
yeah, yeah. I
Which
think he was.
Winston will play.
I think he was diagnosed with a concussion, and you never
Uh,
play the week after being diagnosed. They technically you could, but I think the league would instantly investigate it if you played someone that quick off a concussion.
yeah.
Um, so I'm going to say the Panthers here. They come in, make this close. They could even scrap out their only their second win of the season here.
Mm.
With Jameis giving them a couple of bad interceptions as is his wont. So yeah, I'm going to take the Panthers here.
I think so. I think I'm going to agree with you. I believe I texted you last week after we made the picks. I said that the Panthers got J.C. Horn back and Jeremy Chin, which is very important for that secondary. Expect them to hold up quite well. And the Saints are just a team in free fall at the moment. Everyone seems to be turning on them. They're turning on themselves. And I just don't think there's any way out. I kind of began the year backing the Saints, which turned out okay for me as their defense held them up a bit. But it just seems to be imploding now everywhere. So this is there's also a series split potential, by the way, Mike, which is usually quite a factor in the NFC South, as is most divisions, I guess. But the Saints with a big Monday night win earlier in the year at Carolina, so Carolina want this more, I think. Come in and get the win.
Lovely. I don't have any issues with
Three
that at all.
agreements. Three agreements. Well,
Agreements
four
across the
actually.
board.
Four in a row now. Goodness.
Well, I'm not worried about. I'm not. We just both need to try and get over 500 here, Tom. So I'm not too worried. There's no game theory trying to beat you here. I'm just
No.
trying to call the games accurately. I need to get back over 500. Right. Bucks at Falcons. Another Falcons. No one says Falcons, do they? Bucks at Falcons. NFC South slobber knocker. 1.5 point margin. What do you think?
Ooh, I'm gonna back the marginal favourites here, the Falcons. I don't feel good about this.
You couldn't really. If you've
No.
watched the Falcons this year, you could not feel good about backing them against anybody, really, unless it was the Panthers.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna flip flop. I'm gonna take the Bucks on this just
Oh,
because.
I talked him into it. My goodness.
Yeah, I took the Falcons last week when I felt odd about it.
Well, they
And
did
they
cover
paid
though.
off for me. But the Falcons don't seem like a team that I feel comfy picking 2 weeks in a row. I feel like they're just gonna bounce around and maybe do stuff, but then ultimately flat to deceive. So I'm just gonna take the Bucks here in a close divisional game to come and get the win. I feel like I can't see the Bucks being 5-8 and the Falcons being 7-6. The NFC South is a lot more mired than those records. So I expect the Bucks to win and it will even things up here at the top of a terrible division.
I agree. No, I strongly agree. These two are going to slug it out right to the finish to see who wins the NFC South. And we could very well have a division champ under 500.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me at all in this division. I like Mayfield. I like Mike Evans. They've impressed me this season. They've got kind of a strange team, the Buccaneers, because they've had decent quarterback play. They've got an okay running game. The defense is pretty strong. Lack of linebackers now. They've got huge injuries at linebackers. So the only chance you've got is the Falcons giving it to Bijan Robinson 30 times and just running it down their throat and challenging that linebacker level in the passing game as well. But we've got to go with what we've seen with our eyes though, Tom, which is the Falcons won't do it. They'll only give him the ball 15 to 20 times. So I think that minimizes the ability, and they don't throw it to Pitts over the middle either. So I think if they were gonna, you could attack the Buccaneers there with this Falcons roster, but they don't do it. So I'm going to take the Bucks as a slight underdog to make this interesting and cover and win the game.
Yeah, I like that. Tampa Bay with the best record of an NFC South team against the spread this year. They're 7-5, which is about as good as you can hope for the NFC South against the spread.
Yeah, I think they're an okay team, the Buccaneers. I think they're not there. I think they're a little bit better than their record suggests, you know. I think they're
Yeah.
a better team. I think that personally, just my personal opinion, I think they're a better roster. They're a better 52 than the Falcons. So like, hopefully they'll
Yes.
demonstrate that
Hmm.
tomorrow. No, Sunday. Goodness, Sunday. Uh, right. I want to see this line here.
This is a big one.
Yeah, I knew it would be. I knew it would be.
Ooh. Ooh.
I'm a little
Yeah.
bit not so
Good luck.
fast here. I'm
Yeah.
not so I'm gonna not so fast this one to the bookmakers. I'll waggle my finger because the Ravens do blow out bad teams and they look excellent. They might be the best team in the league, other than maybe the Cowboys are absolutely destroying inferior opposition.
Hmm.
They do struggle when they come up against gritty, um, persistent teams. They do struggle a little bit. They've struggled with the Browns this season. They struggled with the Bengals when the Bengals were fully healthy. Um, I don't think the Rams necessarily come in here and win this game, but I think it's a real game. I think it will come down to the fourth quarter, and I think the Rams get the cover here. I think a lot of not just the Ravens, a lot of NFL teams would have problems with Nakua and Cup.
Yeah.
Uh, the Ravens aren't brilliant at corner anymore. That vaunted Ravens secondary isn't what it used to be. So I'm going to say that, and the Rams will run the ball as well.
Yeah.
Um, they've run it semi successfully against everyone apart from the Eagles basically this season. So I'm going to take the Rams here. Keep it close.
Yeah. I'm afraid there's not going to be much intrigue so far on this show, Mike, because I'm going to agree with you once again. I really like the point about the secondary there. Very few teams will be able to stop this passing attack, and they are going to sell out and pass it, and see if the Ravens can stop it. Yeah, I think it's just a few too many points here for a Rams roster and coaching staff, which is better than people have given it credit for. I think, and that they are feisty. They actually had the most against the spread covers up until a few weeks ago. They've faltered a bit in that regard, but their record is actually pretty good. So I would expect them to cover this. Yes, not much more to add from me, other than we're in agreement.
Nice. Uh, giving the not really giving a huge amount of entertainment this week, Tom. But I mean, you can only go with the lines that are in front of you, right? We're doing our best here, so
Yeah,
trying to
play to
slug
win.
our way back to 500.
Yeah.
Um,
Oof.
ooh,
Ooh.
Texans and
Ooh.
Jets. Now this, I think we might get some difference on this one. Um,
Yeah, I feel like I know which way you might go on this. Again, I think this is a bit of a quagmire for the team from the south going up to all the way up to East Rutherford there on the in December, and they're 3.5 point home dogs. I get it from the record perspective. I'm just going to go with a Jets cover here. I think it's rare. It's rare for the Texans to come up against a defense like this. They haven't really played that good defense, I feel, so far. And this might just be a step too far for them. I also backed against them last week and they won. So I'm not gonna start flip-flopping. I'm gonna stick to my guns and back against them on the spread, and just hope 2 weeks in a row I get one right. Stick to my guns on that. So for no real other reason than that, and other than the fact that it's an outdoor game, I'm going to take the Jets as a nice, comfy field goal cover there.
okay, yeah, I'm going to differ.
Yeah,
Only because I think it's a really tough one to call. Everything you said about the Jets is correct. The pass defense will cause Stroud some issues. But my logic is this: really, I need to start going back to my theory earlier in the season. When you have a considerable gap in the quality of the quarterback play on each side
yeah,
of the ledger, you should really factor that in more. You should weight that more heavily than other factors.
yeah,
And of all the games this week, this might be the biggest gulf in quality of quarterback. For me, CJ Stroud, at the moment, as we sit here today, is the MVP of the league for me. Um,
yeah,
some chatter about it being Dak Prescott. I don't. For me, it's just not correct. I think Stroud has had to do a lot more, put a lot more on
yeah,
his back to turn this team around so quickly than Dak has had to do. In fact, earlier in the season, they were kind of taking out of Dak's hands quite a lot. So Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Stroud has been excellent. Well, he's been unreal. And it'll be really interesting. This is a really good test of his MVP credentials because it's probably the best defense in the NFL.
yeah.
And he is down Tank Dell. He's down to Nico Collins only for this week. I don't know how long Dell's out for. They better hope it's not too long. But yeah, I'm going to differ him. Let's see if Stroud can get it done on the road against
No, I
a
like
tough
that.
opponent.
Yeah, no, I like sticking to your guns. It makes it exciting, this one. And I don't know about that over under, only 33 points. I mean, I guess they're just making every Jets game incredibly low, but
Yeah,
that seems it can easily be beaten here, that
and
over.
that's an excellent point, and that was a point I was going to make as well. Is I'm not actually backing Stroud to go there and throw for 400 yards and shred the Jets.
Yeah.
I think the Texans' defense is solid, if not spectacular, and Wilson will shoot himself in the foot as he always
Oh yeah.
does.
Yeah, it
And
will.
Stroud, the difference will be Stroud will just make just enough plays for me, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, okay, Colts at Bengals. Bengals are 2-point favorites here. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Oh. Ooh.
Um, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to take the Colts here. I don't need to think about this one too much. Uh, I mean, we saw obviously an excellent performance by Jake Browning last week for the Bengals in prime time. The Bengals actually would have won that game if the coaching staff hadn't been so determined to take it out of his hands in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that ridiculous double pass play where they threw an interception gifted the game to the Jags. So I think clearly the Bengals coaching staff know more than we do about this player. They clearly don't trust him to put the game on his back, or at least they didn't last week. So that suggests to me that the Colts should have an advantage. And they've got an excellent pass rush, the Colts. Even though
Yeah.
they're not great in points allowed, but they do get after the quarterback. And Browning
Mm.
has struggled, giving up I think it's double-digit sacks over the 2 games that he's played. So I'm going to say the Colts here as a surprising road dog.
Yeah. It is surprising. I mean, arguably one of the form teams in the NFL right now, the Colts. They can't seem to do much wrong. They just win. So you can't fault them for that. Just having a look, their ATS record is 8-4, which is joint top in the league at the moment. So I'm gonna bet on them to cover another one here, just +2, probably win the game. This feels like a bit of a sticky one. I'm tempted to side with the Bengals, but I've just got to take the form team and probably the best backup QB in the league going at the moment, Mr.
Well, this is
Minshew.
the thing. This is the thing. I would have said probably -4 to the Colts here, or -3, which
Yeah,
this is what we were speaking about earlier. Is somebody knows something here potentially because this is an odd
yeah,
line. This is an odd line. It may well come back to burn us, but I'm going to quite stridently say the Colts here. I think this could be a comfy win, but
yeah.
let's
Looks
see.
that way on paper.
Last 2 or 3 weeks I've been offended by some of these lines and they've been proven to be correct. So let's see how it pans out. The Raiders are back after a week away from smoking stogies. They're back.
As for the Vikings, there's a bye week for both of them here. Goodness.
Yeah. Um,
Ooh, this
Your
could be
Honor,
anything. Oh God.
this could be absolutely anything. No opinion on this whatsoever. Wouldn't touch this with my own money in any universe here.
um,
But you've got to pick it first, so Mazel tov.
yeah, I do. I'm going to just pick the team that I've been riding all year and I've been pretty confident with all year, just because I like the way they're coached and the way they play, and that's the Vikings to come in here as road favorites. Well, there's probably going to be more Vikings fans. They probably relish the trip to Vegas at this time of year, Mike, getting out there in December. So I like that. I like the Vikings just as a better football team to get the job done. Probably more of a chance for them to go to the playoff than the Raiders at the moment, given how the NFC looks. So I like the Vikings to get a win. They just want it more, I think. The Raiders season may start sputtering out now after their brief rejuvenation.
Yeah, so we've had the new coach bounce now from the Raiders. Anything after this point, if they continue to win beyond this point, it starts to look like good coaching rather than just.
Yeah.
So if they do that, well done, Antonio Pierce. I have no doubt he's a better head coach than Josh McDaniels, even on a 3-game sample size. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I'm glad to see the Raiders playing better because they're always an enjoyable team. The Raiders, for me, are one of the better, more fun franchises in the NFL. But I'm going to say the Vikings. I think Dobbs really should be settled in. He's at the bye week to really get settled in. And most importantly, for me, in a fantasy perspective, up against you this week, Tom, is JJ is back.
yeah.
First
Big
overall pick in our fantasy draft is back after a long layoff. And you would expect him to spark what has not been by any means a bad offense. You'd expect them to spark it back into overdrive here, like they were
yeah.
when Cousins was healthy. And a power past the Raiders on the road here. So I'm going to agree with you, the Vikings.
Yeah, oof, you convinced me. I might be having a look at that one now. After saying it could be anything initially, I do get the feeling it's a nailed-on Vikings win here.
Yeah, yeah. What we need is JJ to go off for 200 yards and just seal the playoffs for me, Tom. Just as an aside, probably not interesting to any of the viewers, potential viewers of this show, but Tom is a bit of a he's going around trying to ruin people's seasons now. He's dwelling in the basement of our fantasy football league, and you're just going
Yeah,
around headhunting people, Tom. So me
yeah.
clinging
I
on,
put up 160 last week on
yeah, I know.
second place. Yeah, I'm out with a vengeance now, just to drag
Oh
some people
God.
down with me.
For the first time since like week 2, I'm up in the playoff spots. I just feel like I'm going to come up against a peaking Tom Matthews team with Dak Prescott at quarterback. That is you monster.
That's a terrible situation for you in more ways than one there. So
You
Dak
you
has a big day.
you absolute monster playing Dak Prescott at quarterback. That is hideous. Anyway,
I saw the Eagles are number 32 against quarterbacks. So
that sums our defense up nicely.
yeah.
Right. Seahawks at Niners. Whoa, Nelly. No.
Oh.
Is it me to go first?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Mm.
Seahawks are not a bad team. It's a divisional game. Seahawks. Done. Not worried.
Ah, when the Niners win, they just destroy people, and they've done that to the Seahawks the last 2 times they played. Um, I'm going to differ. I'm going to take the Niners. I'm going to ride the bandwagon here on the Niners and just I reckon this just gets a bit ugly and everything sings nicely for the Niners at home. Don't feel too great about it, but I think I would have taken them if it was up to about 14, to be honest, just based on they're just a hard matchup for the Seahawks team. They're a little soft for me. So it's Niners for me.
Look, I'm gonna. It sounds like I'm gonna hedge here a little bit, but I can see the Niners winning comfortably. But if they win by 10 points, I still cover. So
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
divisional game, the Seahawks are fighting for their lives. I think I don't know. We'll see. We'll see which way the cookie crumbles on that one.
Yeah, that's nice. Intriguing game.
That's a very good game. I'm excited. The late slate's looking much more appetizing this week. I can't really imagine too many of those early games will draw too much individual viewership. A lot of people tuning into Red Zone this week, I think.
Yeah. Well, this works out quite well for me.
Speaking of fighting for their lives, my goodness. Surprisingly, both of these teams.
Yeah, it's I don't know. The Chiefs have had the Bills in our pocket for a long time. This is no different. The Bills just can't beat the Chiefs. Simple as that. Especially now with a rejuvenated defense, where it looked for Andy Reid to really get the ball out to the perimeter and test some of this weak Buffalo Bills tackling and secondary that I seem to comment on all the time. But I reckon all sorts will be getting their hands on the ball. We could see a big day from Hardman, Sky Moore, even bizarrely, which is not something you usually see with this offense. But I think we're really going to test them that way. And the Bills are really going to struggle at Arrowhead as they have done, as history tells us they will do. So I'm actually surprised this isn't more, Mike. I would have thought this would be a 3.5 or something like that. So this is a comfy Chiefs cover here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. I think it might only be by a field goal here, the Chiefs. That's kind of how they've tended to win every game close, more or less, this season. when you say get out to the perimeter, my instant question was to who, really. But I mean, you did answer your own question there. But I, yeah, I mean, I don't know that Sky Moore and Mecole Hardman are really going to worry the Bills, but Mahomes and Kelsey in this defense is enough to beat 60-70% of the teams in the NFL quite comfortably. And I think the Bills fall into that category. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs here too, especially at home, my word.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if I go on to the next game here, this is a fun one. This is again, this late slate of games looking better than the early slate. So, Broncos at Chargers. Broncos finally had their winning run snapped last week to fall to 6-6, and the Chargers eked out a 6-0 win against the lowly Patriots.
God,
I don't know. Well, this is the first time I've seen this line. I don't know how you can have the Chargers as favorites for me. They're just not. I don't think they're favorites in this game. So I'm just going to take I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to come here and win, get back over 500.
Totally agree, and not that it might matter. I've got the line at 2.5, so let's take them at 2.5.
Nice. Do ourselves a favor there. We're under 500. We need all the help we can get.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I agree. The Broncos are a better football team. Tough loss. I mean, they could have easily won that one last week in the last drive against the Texans. They're just a well put together team, and I think this is a no brainer for us. 2.5. We'll take the Broncos.
Nice.
It could be an interesting game. Another good one in the late slate.
Yeah. I'm quite looking forward to that game. I think it'll be a good one.
Becomes the main course.
Yeah, I've just seen what the one of the 2 Monday night games is this week. My goodness, Giants, Packers. God, both right. Eagles at Boys. I guess not surprising. I did call it when we were chatting before. I said I haven't seen the line, but I assume Cowboys will be home favorite. There'll be a lot of money pouring onto them from their rabid fan base. So that probably has extended it out to 3.5 as well from probably the 3 it started at. Is it me first or you?
It's me. It's me. I mean, you can take it if you want.
Okay, then you do 2 in a row. I actually, even though Dallas Goedert is back off injury, which I know that sounds a little bit like making excuses, but the tight end is a huge part of this offense, and he's a dynamic tight end at that, so that will make a difference. But I don't think he'll be on a snap count, and as you've pointed out earlier, the Eagles' defense is porous. We've just picked up Shaquille Leonard to play linebacker for us this week, which might help, but it's the worst linebacking room in the entire NFL. And it got absolutely exposed by the 49ers. That was a demolition job last week. So yeah, unless the Eagles can show quite dramatic improvement, I'm going to say that they lose here. They lose here by more than 3.5. They might lose by a touchdown here, and then, as I said to you earlier, I think we might win out every game to clinch the NFC East for the rest of the way, because the Eagles at the end of a brutal 5-game stretch against some of the best teams in the NFL, and I think judging by last week's result, fatigue might have accumulated to the point where the Eagles just aren't playing the same level of ball they were earlier in the season. So happy for the Cowboys to take this one, because we'll win out and then we'll beat them in the playoffs.
I agree. Yeah, everything you said there makes a lot of sense to me. Cowboys will feel aggrieved. Dak Prescott stepping out there in Philadelphia might have given them the win if he didn't do that. So they're just going to be up for this. And it makes sense that these 2 Titans of the East will split the series. So even though I don't like the 3.5 too much, it's not a field goal, I could see certainly a 7-point win here for the Cowboys. So yeah, mark it in with me as well. We'll agree again.
When Dak's been healthy, we've never won the series against the Cowboys in the entire time that I've been watching the Eagles. We always split with them. It's normally each team wins their respective home game, so
Yeah.
that'll go to form this year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Two teams that know each other incredibly well.
Mm.
Two teams that probably very rarely face each other, and they're going to face on Monday night is Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. Monster line, not surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
You're on a Tom on both of these pretty terrible Monday night games. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look. I'm just having.
You are going to procrastinate.
I'm just trying to have a look through how the spreads have gone this year because I think the Dolphins are always quite big favorites in some of these games, but they tend to.
They cover at home. I bet you they cover. I've backed them on. I've backed them on a couple of huge lines at home, and they've covered. So I'd be very surprised if they don't cover these at home.
The Broncos and Commanders are the two that jumped to mind.
Yeah.
However, this is an AFC matchup, and I always feel the potential for the blowout exists a bit more when it's someone not from your division, which I might just be making that up. But I feel like the Titans are also a team that I don't quite want to take if they're 13-point underdogs. So I'm going to come here and say the Titans get the cover in Miami and make it a little hard for Miami. And if the Titans just stick around for long enough, you never know. I just think it's a few too many points. A Titans team that can still technically make the playoffs, I suppose. So I just think too many points for me. That's the only thing. It's the biggest spread of the week, and I'm going to pick the underdog.
I'm going to differ here. I'm going to take Miami. I think the Titans secondary has been depleted with the loss of Byard, Kevin Byard back there. So I think the Dolphins just rout people once they get up on you. There's no answer for Waddle, Hill, Achane, Mostert, all those guys at home against. I just think they're a very tough out. So I think the Dolphins could run this up and start benching people in the third quarter. I could be wrong, but that's just how I saw this one. That defense, as much as I joke about Vic Fangio being the people getting a bit carried away with his defense, the defense has played really well. Jalen Ramsey has played excellently the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I think that might be a big ask for Levis, who has looked good. He's looked better than his draft position might have suggested. So,
and he's got a rejuvenated DeAndre Hopkins, so that's the only thing. Is that they get something.
All right, well, we've got 90 seconds to pick this one, which is no great shame because it's I don't know who will be tuning. Anyone that is not a Packers or Giants fan will not be tuning into this. My word. Packers off their best performance of the season, Tom. You to pick first. You get to do 2 in a row.
Yeah, this is another win for the Packers here. Keep this win streak alive, and it's under a field goal, so I like that spread -6.5. I don't expect the Giants to be able to hold up to the vertical passing game that we've seen from the Packers, which has been enjoyable the last few weeks. Sorry, not the last few years certainly. But that's a nice cover there, nice number for the Packers to get this job done in a stadium that doesn't really give you much of a home field advantage for the Giants.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're heading to the New Jersey Giants here, and they're gonna beat them up. Not a very good team in any facet, really. The Giants. So, Green Bay will go there and throttle them, and keep their rejuvenation going. They've really turned a corner the last few weeks, which is nice to see. It's you don't want young quarterbacks to come into the league and really struggle. It's good to see Jordan Love playing a little bit better the last couple of weeks. More good quarterbacks we have, the better the league is. So,
Tell the Giants that.
Oh God, yeah. Well, no, Daniel Jones is the man next year. Did you hear that? Whatever happens, Daniel Jones is the man. What, they are out of their minds. They are out